major knee surgery, uh, 2 weeks ago. It was really cool, right? And I went in, checked in, and we had a deductible to meet. Wrote the check for the deductible, and the lady looked at me and said, "Your insurance company just paid X," and that was a big X. Um, and it gave me comfort, right, that I could receive world class care, and that it would not break the bank. And knock on wood, fortunately, very blessed to say, it's we've progressed along the last couple of weeks in recovery. But I'm very thankful for that group health insurance program, right? Because if you look at what I paid versus the group cost, it's just a big old number. So for the folks that are in a similar seat that I'm with my story, talk to that person on what is the value component, or one of the value components, the premise that you're bringing to disrupt that, to make it better. Po- Probably not to eliminate that, right? But to complement that and to make the net result, the big picture, better. Am I correct in that statement?
Yeah, you are 100% correct. I mean, you know, my biggest thing, and I've learned this, over the past few years, is that we want to meet, individuals, families, companies where they're at, in regard to kind of how they're dealing with things, and then try and, you know, um, through our value proposition, help them accomplish two things. Number one is try and introduce opportunities to come alongside of conventional medicine, that different types of practitioners, maybe more root cause, like analysis in regard to when they do get sick or injured or hurt and something can become, serious, being able to approach it a little bit differently. And also through that process and, helping people back to when we first, started the show earlier, um, transformation, trying to get people tools and resources, to help reduce their cost. That goes for employees and individuals and families, as well as employers too, Chuck, because employers, I mean, from 2023 to 2024, we're researching some data that we're going to see the highest rate increase for employers where health insurance is concerned,
Mm,
in the last decade,
mm.
you know, and we do need to have peace of mind, for major medical that could be supported through conventional, but we also need to open up the doors,
Yeah.
to some other possibilities and become more inclusive of bringing doctors and practitioners into the equation that kind of right now are on the outside looking in, that can do a lot of, I think a lot of good to help and support people.
Yeah. And I'm seeing a trend. We've discussed this. I'm seeing a trend in the allied part of healthcare, right? Of the practitioner side, where more and more PCPs, more and more docs are headed toward more progressive modalities, an expanded way of thinking, concierge care, right? Doing it differently, trying to do it better. So I think you're tapping into this big old hill that you're climbing, but I think you're climbing it at a good time. And hopefully, for you and you guys at Tikva, you're getting some wind under your sail or behind your sail, right? With the momentum that I believe is a changing environment. Would you agree?
I would totally agree with that. And I see it too, Chuck. I see it on both. You and I have talked about even, some of the best care, doctors and practitioners and whatnot are kind of evaluating the insurance model, and even like the system, the way that it's set up right now is just not being sustainable. So they're kind of trying to look at like, how do we become more efficient? How do we look at things differently? And then like there's a lot of interest, in especially with individuals, families, and even I attended a session with some of the best doctors in town here in Charleston, where they're becoming more interested in learning at natural ways
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
take care of yourself, maybe differently versus just more conventional approaches. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, the timing for us, everything is timing. I think it's God's timing. I think there's a lot of, perfect timing here for disruption and some positive change that we'll see. And I believe that there'll be a lot of innovation. I mean, you had a chance to visit and work with a lot of different people. Like, we're very fortunate and blessed to be able to do that. And I think there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs out there that try and um, work towards fixing some of the not cracks, but I'd say holes in the
Yeah.
sick care model that we kind of live and all kind of protect today.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Let me macro it out for just a moment as we work toward a close here in the conversation. Again, I love working with entrepreneurs and founders. I was there uh, in many aspects. I'm there again because I love the juice of creativity and the challenge, waking up every morning, wanting to jump out of bed, even with a bad knee, because I love what I do. Right. But I find, and I think this is characteristic of a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, it can be very, very lonely. Again, I go back to tool shed living. It can be very lonely in the tool shed, right? When you're trying to leave the cave, kill something, drag it home so you can eat and feed your kids and feed your family. So I characterize it as being a time of great joy, of great difficulties, of wins and losses and ups and downs. And, there's some days, even doing the podcast, which I love, put a microphone in front of me and I'll dance for my food. But there are just some days that are better than others, and some days that are lonely, and some days you're thinking, why in the hell am I doing what I'm doing? Right. Um, Talk to just real quick that future entrepreneur, that future leader, because we have a lot of leaders and CEOs that listen to the Chuck Crumpton show, but that person, maybe they're walking the dog, they're sitting on a subway. Hopefully, they're not shoveling snow, but they're just working through life in corporate America, and they've got an idea, they've got something burning in their soul, and unless you've done what you're doing, you don't understand the burning of the soul, right? That itch that's down deep that you've got to scratch. But talk to just a moment, because you left, right? You left the security to walk out in the snow. Um, you left the big office building to go into the tool shed. Speak real quick before we close to that person that may be contemplating that. Either A, they're thinking about it, or, and holidays tend to be conducive for people making a change. Maybe they made their change, January 1st, and they're sitting in the tool shed by themselves going, what the heck am I going to do next? You know, how do I put legs to this dream? Talk to that person for a moment. Just share your heart, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you it. I think that we've only got one life to live, and I think a lot of times if we don't really pay close attention to that, or let, circumstances or other things shake us up a little bit, in creating possibilities, or feeling led to do something else, we may not. And then we'll end up maybe when we're in our that maybe we might be leaning up against the wrong building
Hmm.
towards the end of our life, because we didn't take, some of those chances, or we didn't take any risk. And there's never a good time. I think that sometimes, like, I think you got to use discernment and instinct, and there's something to be said for calculated risk. But I also believe that there's never necessarily a great time. You're just going to have to get to a point where you feel like it is the time and make the decision, and you got to go after it. I mean, um because I can look back on, even, and I'll say this to you right now, I can look back on having a lot of stability, and, like, I would say more, like, having plenty of resources coming in, et cetera, all the things, and starting a brand new company, and kind of like being in the grind and trying to bring something to the world that I'm super passionate about, and I feel like it really could benefit from, and really starting at ground zero. I've never been having more fun than I am right now.
Oh,
You know,
so cool, man. So cool.
you know,
Yeah.
and so it's like kind of what we put our, like, that's what we put our trust in, and sometimes we put everything into the wrong things sometimes, and like maybe we're meant to live and we are meant to live differently. So that's what I would encourage people, is you can start planning and researching and doing, all the homework and getting the stuff built out and kind of mapping out, but you just got to get after it because you only got one life to live
Yeah.
and you
Well
got to
said.
live it.
Well said. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, David Thanga, I'm telling you, man, I applaud you for for leaving the big old corporate building and going out and just disrupting your industry. I applaud you. I've watched you, man, and I'll just say this in closing. I watched your first presentation many months ago, and then I watched one, maybe 6 months later, and I was just thrilled at how you grew, not only in grasping and grappling with this big old industry that you're taking on and trying to make better, but just in your articulation of what you guys, your mission and what you're doing and what you want to do. So it was really cool, right? Just as maybe as a friend and a mentor to watch your transformation. So I applaud you, and I do encourage you to keep up the good work, keep the focus, keep your faith in this endeavor, and good things will happen, my friend. Good things will happen. Um, and I really appreciate you sharing what you've done, where you are mentally, and what you guys are doing at Tikva Health and Wellness. How do we track you? We're not going to stalk you, but how do we track you?
So, we have a website, so tikvahealthandwellness.com. And then, my email right now is, David at tikvahealthandwellness.com. And then we do have a form that we are beginning to enroll people. And, you and I talked about this, like we're excited, we're starting to evaluate, different situations that are a really good fit for what we're doing. And so they can, someone can fill out a form and we'll be able to get back to them very quickly through that process and kind of get them up to speed and more educated on what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, Provide them an opportunity to learn more. And, we've got LinkedIn. I've got my LinkedIn account. We've got a business LinkedIn account, and there is a Tikva Health and Wellness Instagram account too.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
different places to plug in, man. We're gearing up for, like, we're putting a lot of effort. You and I know this, and I wanted to say something real quick. I wanted to say a big thank you to you, because you just mentioned, like, I'd say, I think even from last year, just a lot of mentorship and just, your questions and the way that you communicated and just a lot of your experience helped kind of shape and kind of shift, even some of my thinking, and trying to go about tackling this. And I want to say thank you. You
It's
know,
very kind.
last year a lot of time was spent on, fleshing out our business model and kind of getting ready. This year it's time to get after starting to help people
Yeah.
and trying to, get out there and reach, the folks that are ready for us.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think more and more will come with time. So
That's very cool. Well, you're very kind in your thoughts and in your words. Thank you for that. Um, I find in its, and this is maybe purely philosophical, but I find a strange tension with a lot of entrepreneurs and new founders. And the tension is, I've got to come out of the gates. Um, I'll use the bull because, I'm Bull Street, but we come out of the gates hard charging and we want to conquer the world. And you have to harness, you have to embrace the balance of, I'm just going to come out of the gates charging wide open, working hard every day. And you, you balance that with a thirst for knowledge and a humbleness to accept feedback. And I have seen you demonstrate that. And that's a character statement that I'm making of you. And that attitude, man, that character will fuel a lot of great things that you will do in life. So I just encourage you. I encourage you, man, when the days get long and the temperatures drop and you feel like you're out there in the wilderness all by yourself, there are a ton of people around you that are cheering you on, that are waiting more success stories. And I know you guys are going to do great things.